This is supposed to be, the media should be open to everybody. That if there was anything called fair use, when you report something as news, that should be public information, and we should be able to share that on a medium such as the internet. And that's why I'm so scared about their regulations.
Yeah, I do completely agree with you, and I think you've kind of been persuading me. Maybe some of these campaign speech laws are outdated, and all of us should be erring on the side of more and more speech, more and more First Amendment rights, more and more liberty in the public arena. I wonder if there's a way to legislate to make the internet public property. I mean, someone emailed me on my Facebook page today that the internet was actually developed in 1959 by the military and is kind of on loan to the American public, and that the military can kind of retract it at any moment, which I didn't know, and I would have to research to know if that's in fact correct. Mm-hmm. But it just seems like the citizens movement that we're talking about has to take over every possible means of speaking and communicating and deliberating that we can possibly, seize, essentially. It's a lesson from Eastern Europe. They were able to control people as long as they could keep them from communicating freely with one another. And once people began to speak freely to one another, the Soviet Union couldn't hold people down sufficiently. It's the great liberator. So we're going to have to be really creative about that. And if you can help me think of, or if all of you listening out there can think of, legislation that we can propose or lobby for that could lock in the internet as fair use, free public space, please let me know. I also think we need to not just look at the internet, but to bring back, I've got a chapter in Give Me Liberty on deliberation and town meetings. We've lost the art of speaking to one another as citizens and really communicating face-to-face without the medium of all these sort of multinational media organizations and pundits, intervening. And there are organizations that I really admire that will come to your community or your town and hold a, community-wide town hall meeting for you where citizens actually deliberate on the issues coming up in the election and take ownership of the issues and speak to one another face-to-face. And I'd like us to go back to that and to stop looking at sort of Fox News and CNN pundits as the arbiters of speech and reclaim our own right to speak to one another and have that be the center of authority.
Well, absolutely. I think that, getting together with the community is probably the most proactive thing you can do, other than possibly running for office locally, whether that be a city council member or a state senator, or if you're feeling up to it, perhaps your congressional seat. I mean, if we don't take this government back ourselves, a government for and by the people, a government with checks and balances again in the three branches. I mean, you talk to the normal person, they don't even know what the three branches of government are. Three branches, what's that? I'm like, it's checks and balances. It's the judicial, the executive, and the legislature, and they're supposed to keep tabs on one another so that they can't get out of control. I think that's why when you read these documents, those type of groups are, like Campaign for Liberty. That's all they're doing is trying to get people involved in their community and government again. And unless we do that, we're not going to take the country back.
I totally agree. I mean, that's why the last third of Give Me Liberty is a how-to. It's for citizens to take back that power, everything from how to run for office, as you mentioned, how to write op-eds. Ordinary people listening to this should be, writing the op-eds themselves.
Well, let's get into that on the other side. Let's get into the solutions and your addendum, if you will, to the End of America, the Give Me Liberty, a handbook for American revolutionaries. We'll be back after this. It's the Info Warrior.
Don't drink the water. Blood in the water.
All right, we are back. Final segment with Naomi Wolf, the End of America. And before you give out the website, what else can we do? Obviously, there's a lot of people out there that are sending each other YouTube videos. We're trying to make copies. We're trying to get involved as a community. What are some of the other smaller steps people can take right now?
Such a good question. Well, if you don't have to buy Give Me Liberty, you can go to the library. But the last third, as I was saying earlier, are all the how-tos that I could put together. You can start a political movement. There's a how-to about that. You can write op-eds, as I mentioned. It's important to know how to leak to reporters if there's an issue in your community that you want to have in the media, in the debate. Don't be passive. I teach you how to speak to reporters on the record, off the record, and on background. You need to think of yourself as a pundit. I don't mean you personally, Jason. I know you've already made your, media splash, but everyone listening, don't leave it to the pundits in Washington to lead the debate. You have something to say, so you can learn how to speak on television, speak on the radio, talk to print reporters, their summaries in Give Me Liberty. You can think about, the most powerful thing, Jason, that I was told from my source, who's a political consultant, is that we can become what he calls democracy commando teams, meaning right now when you email your congressperson or call them, they really don't need to listen to you unless you vote in congressional elections and do certain other things. And so he teaches this technique that I specify in the book of getting together 20 or 30 of your friends, registering them to vote, and then calling the district office and saying, certain things. I will help the congressperson by, letting people know about him or her on Facebook, by, getting people in my community to know about what he or she's doing, getting the vote out during the election. That apparently gives you more power than the lobbyists and special interests when you then go to that congressperson and say, this is what I want. This is what my group believes in. So that's really, really important. I had no idea that they keep lists, and if you don't vote in congressional elections, you call them, they don't need to listen to you. You can think, you can learn to fundraise, start your own nonprofit, start your own organizations. But the major shift really is psychological. The founders, and by that I mean the whole founding generation of ordinary people, not just the famous people that we've heard about, Jefferson and Madison and so on, but absolutely ordinary people, men and women, African-American slaves, farmers, small business people. They were the ones who had this vision of liberty. And the most profound thing we can do is this internal shift of recognizing that every single one of us is so important, every single one of us is so powerful, and every single one of us is supposed to be a leader in the fight to defend the Constitution and to understand what liberty means and pass it on.
And, I find that is the true key, is to find the great power within yourself and just have the will to actually do something. Quit asking, what can I do? How can I change this? Or just absorbing this information and kind of curling into a ball and saying, I can't make a difference. We can make a difference if we all join forces together and we try to bring this information to the general populace. Thank you so much for joining us for an hour, and I will post those 3 links over on your Facebook page right after this. The site's theendofamerica.com. I hope people check out the film. It's very eye-opening. Thanks again, Naomi. We'll be back after this with Rosalind Peterson.
Survivalistseeds.com. You can now grow your own healthy food for just 4 pennies a pound and break free of the New World Order. You need to get self-sufficient, folks. These people are vicious. They're shutting things down. Survivalist Seeds has now drastically reduced their price on heirloom seeds to the lowest out there. Survivalistseeds.com. Get 6,000 heirloom seeds for a really low price. Be sure and check it out. There's a real heirloom seed shortage right now. So people interested in growing their own healthy food need to get their heirloom seeds now and start their gardens this spring. Freedom starts with action. Survivalistseeds.com is how you survive the world economic collapse that the globalists are engineering.